Welcome to Cosmic Whispers, where cosmic mysteries come alive. Your journey beyond the stars begins now. Deep within the ancient forests of Earth, a phenomenon occurs that transforms ordinary woodland into something otherworldly. As daylight fades and darkness envelops the forest canopy, an ethereal glow begins to emerge from the ground below. This is not the work of fantasy or digital enhancement. It's a natural biological process that has evolved over millions of years, yet remains largely unknown to most of humanity. Welcome to Cosmic Whispers, where today we're exploring the fascinating science of bioluminescent forests, ecosystems where living organisms produce their own light through biochemical reactions. While most people associate bioluminescence with deep-sea creatures or fireflies, few realize that entire forest ecosystems can radiate with living light. Every great journey starts with a few brave explorers. Right now, Cosmic Whispers is just beginning, and your support means everything. If you enjoy unraveling the mysteries of the universe, hit subscribe. It's free and it helps us grow this community together. The phenomenon we're exploring today occurs in select locations across the globe, from the temperate rainforests of Shikoku, Japan, to remote valleys in Brazil's Atlantic forest, and even in isolated pockets of North America's Appalachian Mountains. These aren't the psychedelic mushroom rings depicted in fantasy films, but rather complex ecological networks where fungi, bacteria, and sometimes even plants have developed the remarkable ability to produce cold light through natural chemical processes. At the heart of forest bioluminescence is a chemical reaction involving a molecule called luciferin and an enzyme known as luciferase. When these compounds interact with oxygen, energy is released in the form of light rather than heat, a process scientists call cold light or living light. The biochemical mechanics mirror those found in fireflies and deep-sea creatures, but with adaptations unique to the forest environment. In the forests of Shikoku, the primary illuminator is Mycena chlorophyll, a species of mushroom that glows with a ghostly green hue. Unlike many bioluminescent organisms, these mushrooms don't glow continuously. Their light follows a circadian rhythm, appearing brightest during the early evening hours when the contrast against the darkening forest maximizes their visibility. By dawn, the glow fades entirely, conserving energy during daylight hours when the light would be imperceptible. What makes these glowing forests particularly remarkable is their rarity. The conditions required for extensive bioluminescent fungal networks are exceedingly specific. High humidity, stable temperatures, particular soil chemistry, and minimal human disturbance. Dr. Helena Moreau of the International Mycological Society explains, these ecosystems represent a perfect storm of environmental conditions that have remained relatively unchanged for centuries. When those conditions align with the evolutionary path of certain fungal species, we get these extraordinary displays of living light. The evolutionary advantage of this glow has puzzled scientists for decades. Unlike deep-sea creatures that use bioluminescence for hunting or mate attraction, forest fungi seem to employ it for different purposes. Recent research from the University of São Paulo suggests that the light attracts nocturnal insects that help disperse fungal spores. Other studies indicate the glow might deter fungivores, creatures that would otherwise feed on the mushrooms under cover of darkness. As we venture deeper into these luminous woodlands, we'll discover how these glowing networks form underground, superhighways of communication, how climate change threatens their existence, and why scientists believe these rare ecosystems might hold solutions to some of humanity's most pressing technological challenges. This is just the beginning of our journey into the hidden light of the forest floor, a journey that spans continents, centuries of scientific inquiry, and the very boundaries between biology and physics. Bioluminescent forests exist as isolated pockets across 6 continents, each with unique species compositions and ecological characteristics. In the temperate rainforests of Olympic National Park in Washington state, mycologist Dr. James Cardwell has documented 17 distinct species of light-producing fungi within a single square kilometer. What we're seeing isn't just isolated glowing mushrooms, Cardwell explains, but intricate networks of mycelium, the vegetative part of fungi, creating what amounts to a subterranean communication grid that occasionally manifests as visible light. The most extensive known bioluminescent forest ecosystem exists in Brazil's Mata Atlântica, Atlantic forest, where the prehistoric Gondwanan forest remnants harbor the highest concentration of light-producing terrestrial organisms on Earth. Here, during the humid summer months between December and March, valleys can become so illuminated by bioluminescent fungi that locals historically used them as natural lanterns for nighttime navigation. In 2013, a joint Brazilian-American research expedition to Serra do Mar recorded over 40 species of bioluminescent organisms within a single hectare, a biodiversity hotspot that expedition leader Dr. Maria Ferreira called the terrestrial equivalent of deep-sea hydrothermal vents in terms of unique evolutionary adaptations. Australia's Queensland rainforests present another variation, where the luminous fungi grow predominantly on eucalyptus trees rather than forest floors. The combination of these ghost-white trunks against the dark rainforest creates what ecologist Dr. Thomas Patel describes as natural cathedrals of light. Aboriginal traditional knowledge speaks of these glowing forests in creation stories dating back thousands of years, describing them as places where sky spirits came to rest on Earth. Perhaps most unexpected are the bioluminescent forests discovered in 2018 in the limestone karst forests of southern China's Guizhou province. Here, a unique ecosystem has evolved where both fungi and bacteria produce light, creating layered illumination patterns that change throughout the night. The bacteria primarily colonize leaf surfaces, while fungi dominate the soil and fallen logs, resulting in distinct waves of blue and green light that appear to ripple through the forest as evening progresses. What makes these global hotspots of bioluminescence particularly valuable to science is their isolation from one another. Each has evolved independently, presenting researchers with natural laboratories for studying convergent evolution, where similar traits develop separately in unrelated organisms. We're essentially looking at multiple evolutionary experiments running in parallel across the globe, explains evolutionary biologist Dr. Sarah Chen of the University of California, Berkeley. These organisms have independently arrived at similar biochemical solutions to very different ecological challenges. The Arctic Circle also contains bioluminescent forest phenomena, though these manifest differently from their tropical and temperate counterparts. In the boreal forests of northern Finland, during the brief summer growing season, certain lichen species emit an ultraviolet glow invisible to human eyes but detectable by specialized equipment. These lichens, symbiotic partnerships between fungi and algae, have evolved this property possibly as protection against the extreme UV exposure during the midnight sun period. Historical records suggest human awareness of these phenomena stretches back centuries. Indigenous peoples across continents incorporated glowing forests into cultural practices and oral traditions. Polynesian navigators reportedly used maps of bioluminescent coastal forests as nighttime landmarks. Medieval European accounts describe witch fires in old-growth forests, almost certainly bioluminescent fungi that were both feared and revered. Modern scientific documentation of these forests began in 1854, when British naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace described ghostly light emanating from rotting vegetation during his expeditions in the Malay archipelago. Yet comprehensive mapping efforts only began in the early 21st century, revealing just how rare and threatened these ecosystems have become. The Global Bioluminescent Ecosystem Project estimates that suitable habitat has declined by 76% over the past century due to deforestation, climate change, and light pollution. The radiance that transforms ordinary woodlands into glowing wonderlands operates through one of nature's most elegant biochemical processes. Unlike the light from a campfire or incandescent bulb, bioluminescence produces cold light, photons, generated with minimal heat waste. This efficient energy conversion achieves nearly 100% efficiency, a feat that human lighting technology has yet to match despite centuries of development. At the molecular level, forest bioluminescence primarily involves three key components: the small molecule luciferin, the enzyme luciferase, and oxygen. When these elements combine under the right conditions, the chemical reaction produces an excited state molecule that releases energy in the form of visible light as it returns to its ground state. Dr. Emily Nakamura, biochemist at the Tokyo Institute of Technology, explains, "What's remarkable about forest bioluminescence is how the organisms have fine-tuned the quantum mechanics of this reaction to produce specific wavelengths of light, typically in the green-blue spectrum that travels furthest through fog and vegetation. The precise chemistry varies between species. Mycena fungi utilize a luciferin-luciferase system that requires adenosine triphosphate, ATP, the energy currency of cells, making their light production directly tied to their metabolic activity. In contrast, the honey mushroom, Armillaria, Melia, employs a system involving hispidin, a compound that undergoes oxidation to create its characteristic amber glow. Interestingly, not all bioluminescent forest organisms produce their own light-generating compounds. Research published in 2021 in the journal Nature Microbiology revealed that some fungi acquire luminescence through symbiotic relationships with bacteria that supply the necessary luciferase enzymes. This discovery has rewritten our understanding of how bioluminescence evolved in forest ecosystems. The color spectrum of forest bioluminescence ranges from deep violet to yellow-green, with each hue serving specific ecological functions. Blue-green light, wavelengths between 470 and 510 nanometers, dominates in most forest settings as these wavelengths penetrate fog and vegetation more effectively than other colors. The foxfire fungus, Pinellus stypticus, produces light at approximately 485 nanometers, precisely the wavelength that travels furthest through water-saturated air typical of humid forests. Temperature and humidity create dynamic variations in forest bioluminescence. Dr. Robert Henderson of Edinburgh University has documented how even small changes in ambient conditions can dramatically alter light output. A temperature increase of just 3 degrees Celsius can double the luminous intensity in some species, while others will completely cease light production. This sensitivity makes these organisms excellent bioindicators for climate changes. The biochemical pathway for light production follows precise timing mechanisms. Most bioluminescent fungi display circadian rhythms, with peak luminosity occurring during the early hours of night. Some species produce continuous light, while others pulse or wave in patterns that researchers are only beginning to decode. The Omphalotus olearius mushroom, for example, produces light in 12-minute cycles, creating a pulsing effect visible to careful observers. What distinguishes forest bioluminescence from other forms is its frequently extensive nature. While a single mushroom might glow faintly, vast networks of interconnected mycelium, sometimes spanning hundreds of square meters underground, can create spectacular displays when conditions are right. These networks represent some of the largest bioluminescent organisms on the planet. Laboratory analysis has revealed extraordinary diversity in the luciferin compounds across different forest species. Scientists have identified at least 8 structurally distinct luciferins in forest fungi alone, each representing an independent evolutionary pathway to light production. This biochemical diversity offers promising applications for biotechnology, where researchers are already adapting these natural light-producing systems for medical imaging, environmental monitoring, and even sustainable lighting technologies. Recent advances in genetic sequencing have allowed scientists to identify and isolate the specific genes responsible for bioluminescence in forest organisms. In 2019, a team from Russia's Institute of Biophysics successfully transferred bioluminescence genes from fungi into tobacco plants, creating plants that glow visibly throughout their life cycle, the first step toward potential applications, like self-illuminating landscaping or crops that signal their own water needs through changes in luminosity. Beneath the visible spectacle of glowing mushrooms and radiant mycelium networks lies a complex ecological story, one where light serves as both communication medium and survival strategy. Far from being merely a curious sideshow of forest life, bioluminescence functions as a critical component in ecosystem health and resilience. The most evident ecological role of forest bioluminescence involves spore dispersal. Dr. Cassius Stevenson, of Cornell University, has documented how certain beetle species are specifically attracted to the glow of fungi, like Mycena lucent types. His research team demonstrated that these insects carry fungal spores up to 2 kilometers away from the parent organism, a distance impossible through passive dispersal methods alone. The beetles are essentially functioning as living transportation networks for fungal genetic material, Stevenson explains. Remove them from the equation, and the fungi's reproductive success plummets by approximately 70%. This relationship extends beyond simple transportation. Many arthropods that interact with bioluminescent fungi have evolved specialized adaptations. The Mycena beetle, Platerodrylus luminosus, has developed enlarged, compound eyes with photoreceptors specifically tuned to the wavelengths produced by its fungal partners. Meanwhile, certain millipede species consume bioluminescent fungi and temporarily incorporate the light-producing compounds into their exoskeletons, becoming secondarily bioluminescent themselves and gaining protection from predators. Perhaps more surprising is the role these glowing networks play in forest carbon sequestration. The mycelial networks that produce bioluminescence also happen to be extraordinarily efficient at carbon processing. Research from 2023 by the Global Forest Carbon Initiative found that forest sections with abundant bioluminescent fungi sequestered up to 22% more carbon than similar sections without these organisms. This finding has profound implications for climate science and forest management strategies. Bioluminescent fungi also serve as environmental sentinels. Their extreme sensitivity to pollutants, particularly heavy metals and certain pesticides, makes them excellent bioindicators. Dr. Elaine Yoshida of Kyoto University has developed a monitoring system using bioluminescent fungi to detect environmental contamination. When exposed to certain toxins, the light production mechanisms are among the first cellular processes to fail. A forest that should be glowing but isn't is sending us an urgent message about its health. The interactions between light-producing fungi and tree roots reveal another layer of ecological significance. Many bioluminescent fungi form mycorrhizal relationships with forest trees, creating symbiotic partnerships where fungi help trees access minerals while receiving carbohydrates in return. Recent evidence suggests that the bioluminescent properties may actually strengthen these partnerships by attracting beneficial soil organisms that further enhance nutrient exchange. When examining forest ecosystems under climate stress, researchers have noted that areas with robust bioluminescent fungi networks show greater resilience. Dr. Martin Chavez of Mexico's National Autonomous University explains, "These fungi appear to function as stress buffers, helping tree communities weather drought conditions by optimizing water distribution through mycelial networks." The bioluminescence itself seems to correlate with periods of active resource sharing between organisms. The timing of luminous displays often coincides with specific ecological triggers. In Malaysia's rainforests, researcher Dr. Aisha Rahman has documented how synchronized luminous events in fungi correlate precisely with seasonal fruit drops from canopy trees. It's as though the forest floor is responding to the sudden influx of organic material, she explains. The light signals seem to mobilize decomposer communities at exactly the moment their services are most needed. Light pollution presents a growing threat to these ecological relationships. Studies in forests near urban areas show disrupted timing in bioluminescent displays, with consequent failures in spore dispersal and reproduction. As artificial light increasingly penetrates natural areas, the delicate choreography of these light-mediated interactions faces unprecedented challenges. For forest conservation efforts, understanding these luminous networks has become increasingly crucial. We're finding that bioluminescent organisms often serve as keystone species in decomposition networks, explains Dr. Terence Wong of Singapore's Forest Health Institute. Their presence or absence can tell us volumes about ecosystem integrity and functional diversity. In many ways, they're the canaries in the coal mine for forest health. If they're thriving and glowing, it suggests the underlying ecological processes remain intact. Beneath the forest floor, hidden from casual observation, exists what mycologists now describe as Earth's most extensive biological network, the mycelium. These thread-like fungal structures form vast interconnected webs that can span thousands of acres. In certain special cases, these networks produce the haunting glow we observe as forest bioluminescence. But the light represents only a fraction of the story. When we see glowing mushrooms, we're observing just the reproductive structures, like seeing only the apples, not the apple tree, explains Dr. Francesca Lombardi of the University of Florence. The true organism is the mycelial network below, which can be thousands of times larger than what's visible above ground. These mycelial networks function as biological information superhighways, transmitting chemical signals, nutrients, and resources between trees and other plants. In 2016, research published in Science revealed that these networks transmit electrical impulses in patterns bearing remarkable similarities to those observed in animal nervous systems. When portions of these networks bioluminesce, they're essentially making visible what is otherwise a hidden layer of forest intelligence. The most extensive documented bioluminescent mycelium network was discovered in Oregon's Malheur National Forest, where a single honey fungus, Armillaria ostoyi, spans an astonishing 2,380 acres, roughly equivalent to 1,765 football fields. Sections of this massive organism occasionally produce visible light, creating what appears to be synchronized patterns across large distances. Genetic analysis confirms it's a single organism, estimated to be between 2,000 and 8,000 years old. What makes these luminous networks particularly valuable for research is how they reveal mycelial activity in real time. Dr. Paul Stamets, a leading mycologist who has studied bioluminescent networks for over 3 decades, describes the phenomenon. The light production corresponds with periods of active nutrient transport and cellular communication. We're literally watching the forest's neural network in action when we observe these glowing displays. The technology to map these networks has advanced dramatically in recent years. Using a combination of soil genomics, electrical impedance, tomography, and time-lapse photonics, researchers can now create 3-dimensional models of mycelial networks and their luminous activities. These maps reveal patterns that change with seasons, weather conditions, and even in response to disturbances, like selective logging or wildlife movement. Particularly fascinating is how these networks respond to forest injuries. When trees are damaged by storms or insect outbreaks, nearby mycelial networks often increase their luminous activity. This response appears to correlate with accelerated resource redistribution, essentially, the forest mobilizing nutrients toward areas under stress. Dr. Elena Veracruz of the Global Forest Monitoring Initiative explains, it's comparable to how blood flow increases to wounded areas in animals. The mycelium directs resources where they're most needed, and the bioluminescence serves as a visible indicator of this response. The chemical communication facilitated by these networks has profound implications for understanding forest ecosystems. Trees connected by common mycelial networks can share defense compounds when one is attacked by pests. Studies at the University of British Columbia have demonstrated that when a Douglas fir tree is damaged by budworms, it releases volatile warning chemicals that travel through mycelial connections to neighboring trees, which then preemptively increase their own defensive compounds, all within 24 hours. In tropical rainforests, these luminous networks take on additional importance during regeneration after disturbance. Following a 2019 cyclone in Queensland, Australia, ecologists observed intense bioluminescent activity in damaged forest sections during the recovery phase. The pattern of illumination corresponded precisely with accelerated nutrient cycling and organic matter decomposition, processes critical for forest recovery. The age of these networks adds another dimension to their significance. Some bioluminescent mycelial systems have persisted in the same forest locations for millennia, representing some of Earth's oldest living organisms. Their genetic stability over such timeframes makes them valuable subjects for studying evolutionary adaptation and resilience. As forest fragmentation continues globally, these networks face unprecedented threats. Luminous mycelium cannot simply re-establish across roads, developments, or agricultural fields. Once fragmented, the communication and resource-sharing benefits they provide diminish rapidly. Conservation biologists increasingly advocate for preserving not just trees, but the invisible networks beneath them, using bioluminescence as a visible proxy for underground ecosystem health. The human relationship with glowing forests stretches back to our earliest stories. Indigenous cultures across continents incorporated bioluminescent phenomena into their cosmologies, medicinal practices, and navigation techniques long before science offered explanations for the ethereal light. The Yurok people of Northern California maintained oral traditions describing specific forest locations where Earth stars would appear, places now confirmed as habitats for bioluminescent fungi. These sites were considered spiritually significant, places where the boundary between ordinary and spirit worlds thinned. Similarly, in Japan's ancient Shinto traditions, forests with tobikera, glowing mushrooms, were designated as sacred groves, where kami, spirits, were particularly present. These traditions weren't merely superstitious, explains anthropologist Dr. Maya Johnson. They represented sophisticated ecological knowledge systems that recognized the significance of these organisms thousands of years before Western science caught up. The correlation between healthy ecosystems and bioluminescent displays isn't a new discovery. Indigenous knowledge systems have always understood this connection. Historical documents reveal that bioluminescent fungi have played practical roles in human activities for centuries. During Japan's feudal period, samurai reportedly used dried slices of glowing mushrooms as emergency light sources during nighttime. Military operations. In parts of Brazil, early Portuguese explorers documented indigenous guides marking forest trails with sections of luminous fungi attached to trees. The first scientific inquiry into forest bioluminescence began in 1799, when naturalist Alexander von Humboldt documented glowing fungi during his South American expeditions. However, it wasn't until Raphael Dubois isolated the chemical compounds luciferin and luciferase in 1887 that science began to understand the mechanisms behind the light. The 20th century brought new dimensions to this relationship. During World War II, soldiers in the South Pacific reported using bioluminescent fungi as impromptu flashlights while navigating jungles at night. The subtle glow provided enough illumination to read maps without creating light visible to enemy positions. Modern science has transformed our understanding of these phenomena while simultaneously revealing how much ancient knowledge systems had correctly intuited. The discovery that many bioluminescent fungi produce antimicrobial compounds validates traditional medicinal applications across cultures. Compounds from Mycena illuminans are currently in clinical trials as novel antibiotics effective against drug-resistant infections. Perhaps most remarkable is how bioluminescent organisms are inspiring technological innovation. The engineering principle of biomimicry, looking to nature for sustainable design solutions, has embraced these light-producing systems. Dr. Karen Nakamura of the Tokyo Institute of Sustainable Technology has developed prototype street lighting that mimics fungal bioluminescence. These systems produce light through chemical reactions similar to those in fungi, consuming far less energy than conventional lighting while producing zero heat waste. In France, the startup Bioluminescent has created emergency lighting systems for public buildings that function without electricity, based on stabilized luciferin-luciferase reactions. These systems provide 8 hours of soft illumination during power outages, with minimal environmental impact compared to battery-powered alternatives. Conservation initiatives increasingly focus on bioluminescent forests as flagship ecosystems to protect broader biodiversity. The Firefly Forest Reserve in Malaysia, established in 2021, protects both firefly breeding grounds and bioluminescent fungi habitats, recognizing their interconnected ecological roles and tourism potential. Educational programs centered around these phenomena have transformed public engagement with forest ecosystems. The annual Midnight Forest Festival in Shikoku, Japan, combines traditional cultural ceremonies with citizen science, inviting participants to document bioluminescent organisms while learning about forest conservation. Similar initiatives have emerged in Brazil, Australia, and the United States, using the inherent wonder of glowing forests to foster environmental stewardship. Scientific research continues to accelerate. The International Bioluminescence Research Consortium, formed in 2019, coordinates global research efforts focused on forest light-producing organisms. Their work ranges from systematic biodiversity assessment to applied research in medicine and sustainable technology. As climate change alters forest ecosystems worldwide, bioluminescent organisms serve as sensitive indicators of these shifts. Long-term monitoring programs in temperate forests have documented changes in the timing, intensity, and distribution of bioluminescent displays, creating a visible record of ecosystem responses to warming temperatures and altered precipitation patterns. For forest conservation strategies, these organisms have become central to broader protection efforts. When we protect the conditions necessary for bioluminescent fungi to thrive, explains conservation biologist Dr. William Chen, we're essentially protecting the fundamental ecological processes that sustain the entire forest. Their presence is a visible signal of a healthy, functioning ecosystem. As we stand at the intersection of discovery and potential loss, the future of bioluminescent forests hangs in delicate balance. These rare ecosystems face unprecedented threats from climate change, habitat fragmentation, and light pollution, yet simultaneously offer solutions to some of humanity's most pressing challenges. The most immediate concern is preservation. Current estimates suggest that suitable habitat for extensive bioluminescent fungi networks has declined by over 70% globally in the past century. Dr. Elena Satoshi of the International Forest Monitoring Network explains, "We are losing these ecosystems before we fully understand them. Many contain species still unknown to science, along with their unique biochemical properties. Conservation strategies specifically targeting bioluminescent forests have emerged in recent years. In 2022, the Global Bioluminescent Ecosystem Project identified 37 priority regions worldwide, where protective measures could preserve the highest concentration of light-producing terrestrial organisms. Their approach emphasizes not just setting aside land, but maintaining the specific conditions these sensitive ecosystems require, including buffer zones to prevent light pollution infiltration. Light pollution represents a particular challenge. Unlike many environmental pressures, its effects on bioluminescent organisms are immediate and dramatic. Studies in the Appalachian Mountains have documented how even distant sky glow from cities can disrupt the circadian rhythms of light-producing fungi, affecting their reproduction and ecological functions. This has led to innovations like the Dark Sky Corridor Initiative, which works with communities near critical habitat to implement specialized lighting ordinances. Climate change introduces additional complexities. Many bioluminescent fungi require narrow temperature and humidity ranges, making them particularly vulnerable to shifting conditions. Transplantation projects in several countries are attempting to establish populations in locations projected to maintain suitable conditions as climates warm. It's essentially assisted migration, explains mycologist Dr. James Ferreira. We're helping these organisms reach places they might not find on their own in time. The scientific frontier continues expanding through advanced research techniques. Hyperspectral imaging now allows researchers to detect bioluminescence invisible to human eyes, revealing that these phenomena may be far more widespread than previously recognized. Genetic sequencing projects have identified bioluminescence-related genes in dozens of forest fungi previously thought to be non-luminous, suggesting that the trait may be dormant or expressed only under specific conditions in many species. Perhaps the most promising developments lie in biomedicine. Compounds isolated from bioluminescent forest organisms are showing remarkable potential in medical applications. Luciferin derivatives from Mycena species have demonstrated effectiveness as tumor-marking agents, helping surgeons identify cancer boundaries with unprecedented precision. Meanwhile, a structural protein from Pinellus stypticus is in advanced trials as a treatment for certain neurodegenerative conditions. Biotechnology applications continue to evolve rapidly. Scientists have successfully transferred bioluminescence genes into various plant species, creating potential for sustainable lighting solutions with minimal energy requirements. Prototype glowing plants, developed at Denmark's Institute for Sustainable Biotechnology, can produce enough light to read by, powered entirely by the plant's own metabolic processes, a technology that could revolutionize indoor lighting in resource-limited settings. Environmental monitoring systems increasingly incorporate bioluminescent organisms as biosensors. Their extreme sensitivity to pollutants makes them ideal early warning systems for ecosystem disturbances. The European Environmental Agency has implemented a continent-wide monitoring network using standardized bioluminescence measurements to track forest health and detect pollution events before conventional sensors register changes. Public engagement with these phenomena continues, growing through citizen science initiatives. The Global Glow Observation Project involves thousands of volunteers worldwide who document bioluminescent displays using standardized protocols and smartphone applications. This massive dataset helps scientists track seasonal patterns and long-term trends across continents. For future generations, bioluminescent forests represent living laboratories for understanding evolutionary processes, ecosystem dynamics, and biochemical innovation. Their preservation ensures that these natural wonders and the knowledge they contain remain available for discovery and inspiration. As our scientific understanding deepens, so too does our appreciation for these phenomena beyond their utility. The experience of standing in a forest, pulsing with living light, connects us to something primal and profound, a reminder of nature's endless capacity for wonder and the complex interdependence of all living systems. Perhaps the most valuable lesson from these glowing woodlands is how they embody resilience through connection. The vast mycelial networks that produce this ethereal light demonstrate how cooperation and communication foster ecosystem health and adaptation to changing conditions, a model increasingly relevant as humanity navigates its own environmental challenges. In the luminous depths of these rare forests, ancient processes continue their quiet work of renewal and relationship, offering both inspiration and instruction for creating a sustainable future. As we continue exploring these phenomena, we discover not just new scientific knowledge, but deeper insight into how all life on Earth exists as a vast, interconnected community, an insight that glows with particular clarity in the living light of the forest.